Are you currently or have you ever been involved in a long distance relationship where you did not see the other relational partner for an extended period of time?
Yes.
With a friend, family, a loved one, or multiple people?
Best friend.
Okay. How long had this been a long distance relationship?
I guess 4 years now.
Okay.
Because I'm from Maryland, so they're still in Maryland and I'm in Louisiana.
Okay.
College.
Was this relationship with a male or a female?
Female.
Okay. Would you say this relationship was positive or negative?
Positive with some negatives.
Okay. How often did you communicate with this person?
Um,
Would you say less than a month, once a month, 2 or 3 times a month, once a week, 2 or 3 times a week, or daily?
when I first came to college, we communicated like multiple times a week because we were both in college and wanting to keep up with each other, but then that slowly went to once a month and then very rarely
Okay.
now.
Did you ever have an imagined interaction with this partner during the long distance relationship? And what that means is, thinking about how you might act with them before or like after a conversation, thinking about it.
Yes.
Okay. How often would you say you had imagined interactions with this person?
Um,
Never, less than once a month, 2 or 3 times a month, once a week, or 2 or 3 times a week, or daily.
well, like I said in the beginning, like the more that we actually communicated, the more imagined interactions I think I would have because I would be wondering what they're doing and imagining the next time we talk, like wanting to hear about how their college experience is going, like thinking about all the things that they might be doing. And then slowly, as we stopped contacting each other more and more, I started thinking about them less, probably.
Okay. What would you say most of the imagined interactions were about?
Well, like I said in the beginning, I would just be imagining all the fun that they're having there in their college experience as opposed to what I'm doing here and how different it is because Maryland is very different college up there than LSU. So I would just be, imagining them in their classes and at football games and stuff. It's just a lot different. And what was the second part of the question?
Just what the imagined interactions were about.
Oh yeah. And then, so as we started like communicating less, and I started kind of like hearing about what they were doing more, I would be imagining them, like I heard that they like went and visited a friend in South Carolina and they hadn't come to visit me, so I'd be imagining them there having all this fun. And then when we actually talked, it ended up being a completely different situation. Like they had went on a last minute type thing. So like in the beginning it was exciting imagining what they're doing, and then it kind of slowly changed to like I was imagining them like having so much more fun and not even really thinking about me, and then that kind of went to a more negative
Okay.
imagined interaction.
Do you believe that the use of imagined interactions in long distance relationships is useful in maintaining the relationship?
Yes, I mean, like I said in the beginning, it made me like excited to want to talk to them and like hear about what they're doing. But then imagining them, like when it got to more negative imagined interactions, I guess I would like before we even spoke, I would already be kind of like in a bad mood because I would have imagined what they had already been doing. So that kind of like was a negative aspect of it. But then we would actually talk and they would explain and it would be fine.
Okay. So, would you say that you had strong positive or negative feelings towards this person?
I mean, I've always had strong positive feelings toward them because they're my best friend. But like I said, the more I would imagine them doing things that they may not even have been doing, the more negative the conversation would get when we actually spoke.
Okay. Was the relationship dominated more by you or by the partner?
By me.
Were your imagined interactions with this person dominated by you or the partner? Basically, like before, were the actual interactions like dominated by you or the other person? And then when you imagine them, were they dominated by you or the other person?
when I imagined them, when I imagined them, they were more dominated by me because I would be more assertive and more, like, imagining what I'm going to say, like, you know, I guess, for example, when they went to USC and not to LSU, I would imagine all these things I was going to say to them when we spoke, but then when we actually spoke, like, when we actually had interactions, I said it was more dominated by me because I would make the effort to contact them and to stay in touch more than they would. But then when we actually spoke, I guess you could say it was more dominated by them because they changed my thought of the situation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you believe that the relationship could have lasted without imagined interactions? Why or why not?
I mean, I don't really think it would have lasted without imagined interactions because I wouldn't be thinking about them. I wouldn't be wondering what they're doing and excited to talk to them and, you know.
Good deal. Do you believe or know if your partner in this relationship used imagined interactions to maintain the relationship?
I think they did also. Kind of the same thing like I did.
Okay. Do most of your imagined interactions occur before your conversations with the partner, which would be proactive, or did they occur after or like prior to the conversation reviewing what had already taken place, which would be retroactive?
I think a little bit of both because, like I said, before we would talk, I would be imagining what they were doing, imagining like all these things they were going to tell me, and then we would talk and, like, for example, sometimes they would tell me things that they had been doing, and I would think about it after we had, like, talked, and I don't know, I guess.
So you think you would think about it more before?
Yeah, definitely think about it more before, but the only reason I would think about it after is because it changed the way that I felt after we had talked, so I would think about it and be like, okay, well, I shouldn't be mad about that.
Okay. Were most of your imagined interactions with this person about the same or similar topics or multiple topics?
Mostly the same, or very similar topics.
Please rate how discrepant your imagined interactions were with this person. Basically, like how similar your imagined interactions were with what actually happened.
Well, in the beginning, they were very similar. Like, I would imagine, you know, all the fun festivities they were doing, and they, like, joined a sorority, and I imagined pretty much all the same things that they had told me. But then, for example, when it happened, like, when they went to visit one of our other friends at school, I had imagined them, like, planning out this whole thing and not telling me about it on purpose, but then after we spoke, it would be completely different. Like, It wouldn't be that case at all. Like, they would explain, like, hey, we didn't purposely, like, not tell you this.
Okay. Do you know why they were not as similar? Like, what do you think were the causes of, like, your prior interactions, like, before you would talk to them, like, were so different than what was actually the case?
I think my own, like, the reasons why it would be different of my imagined interactions and then what actually happened would be just my own emotions, my own, like, jealousy, my own mind construing things whenever that's not really what happened at all.
Okay. On a scale from 1 to 7, how would you rate your level of detail and distinction of images in your imagined interactions? Like, how specific were your imagined interactions? From 1 being, like, the least descriptive and 7 being the most detailed.
I'd probably say a 5 because I would imagine everything that they would say in response to what I had to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I would think of, like, all the possibilities that they could explain, you know, why they did that or whatever, and then I would have, like, you know, imagine my response and explain why I would be upset about that to them. So pretty descriptive, I guess, 5.
Do you believe that imagined interactions allowed your relationship to be better when it was a long-distance relationship as opposed to when it was not? Why or why not?
I think... Wait, repeat the question one more time.
Like, do you think that imagined interactions that you had when, like, y'all are separated were better for the relationship as opposed to, like, when you were still there and, like, you were still close to them? Like, do you feel like you use, like, your imagined interactions were better when you were apart or better when you were together? Like, when you would think about before you would talk to them or after?
I think it would be better, like, after we had talked, after we had actually interacted. Depending, though, because, like I said in the beginning, when it was exciting and I wanted to hear about everything, you know, that, like, kept us going and kept us really in touch in the beginning. But then I started forming a more busy life here, they started forming a more busy life there, and then it kind of just, like, those imagined interactions of, like, you know, wondering what they're doing and all that stuff kind of fizzled out. And then it kind of went into more of a bad thing where I would be like, well, now I feel like when we talk, I'm just going to get jealous or something like that. Okay. But then I would talk to them and it wouldn't be that way afterwards. Does that kind of make sense?
Did your use of imagined interactions help increase self or partner understanding? Why or why not?
It did. I think it did a lot for me, especially because it kind of, I guess, made me realize I don't know, like, when it comes to my friends, I guess I would get jealous easily, and I didn't realize that before, because I would imagine them, like, doing all these things and basically, you know, moving on with their lives, and I would think that they didn't really care even what I was doing here. But then when we actually talked, that wasn't the case at all, and it just kind of made me realize about myself, like, maybe I have a jealous personality, or, like, a envy, like, I don't know, maybe.
Right. So, like, then after you realize that about yourself, like, through imagined interactions, like, later conversations that you would have them, you would keep that in mind.
Yes,
and, like,
exactly.
It would help you to deal with, like, in the actual conversation.
Exactly.
Okay.
And also because, like, I would think about, like, that kind of stuff happened a lot, really.
Yeah.
With me getting jealous. So, like, the next time I would start to get jealous about something, I would think, well, okay, but that's not how it was the last time. Like, it's not really like that. And that, like, imagined interaction that I had from before that was, like, a jealousy type of thing, and the actual interaction of, like, them explaining themselves, and that's not really how it is, and, like, you know, we do still care about each other as friends, made this next imagined interaction better because I look back on that and it helped me have a better perspective.
Okay, good. Did you use imagined interaction to solve relational issues or manage conflict?
I wouldn't say I used them to do that because I think that, well, okay. Yes and no. I didn't in the beginning because I didn't realize that my imagined interaction was like a negative thing. I was just, like, being jealous, and I didn't realize that me imagining everything they're doing was going to negatively impact our conversation because it would create conflict. But then after having realized that, I guess my imagined interaction with them, after going through that a few times, would help me manage conflict better because it just made me have a better perspective of the situation. Okay. So it grew into a thing that helped me in the end.
Did you have more imagined interactions with this person when you were separate from them as opposed to when you were together?
Yeah, definitely separate.
When talking on the phone with this person, did imagined interactions help you to determine how the person was reacting to what you were talking about?
Say that one more time.
When you were talking on the phone with this person, did imagined interactions help you determine how the person was reacting to what you were saying, like to what you were talking about? So, like, say, for example, you thought, like, before you called this friend, like, you thinking about, you know, how the conversation would go before you talked to them, like, would that help you determine, like, how the person was reacting to what you were saying during the actual conversation?
Yeah, I think that helped, but at the same time, I don't really know because, like, sometimes when I imagined, like, the way that I imagined our conversation going like imagining what they were going to respond back in imagining it wouldn't make me feel better or make me, I guess, be like less upset with them. But then once we actually talked, their actual reaction or our actual interaction was better than what I had imagined.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So I don't really know if it's like good or bad.
Yeah, no, that's good. If your relationship with this person failed, do you believe that imagined interactions may have contributed to its failure, or maybe not enough imagined interactions contributed to its failure? Please elaborate.
I think that, like I said, like in the beginning, imagined interactions, it was great because, you know, we were excited to hear about what was going on. Like, it made us look forward to talking to each other. And then, like I said, it went into my imagined interactions started creating conflict because I would imagine these like false realities that weren't really the case. But then we would actually interact and talk, and they would like clear that up almost, or we would come to an understanding, and then that almost in a sense like helped our friendship grow and helped our relationship grow because I realized things about myself, and I mean they also realized things about themselves and about like our friendship and about how like even though we're not spending every day together anymore, and even though we are going on to our different lives, and like I'm here in Louisiana, they're in Maryland, you know, like when we do come home and actually interact with each other again, it's not going to be the same, but that doesn't mean that like our friendship is any worse or any less strong. It just means that we're growing. So like imagined interactions, I think definitely in the end helped, like if they weren't there,
It helped keep the relationship like intact.
Exactly.
Okay. What is your gender? Female. And what is your age?
21.